He says, باب كتابة العلم. حدثنا مسدد وأبو بكر بن شيبة قال أخبرنا يحيى عن عبيد الله بن الأخنس عن الوليد بن عبد الله بن أبي مغيث عن يوسف بن ماهك عن عبد الله بن عمرو قال كنت أكتب كل شيء أسمعه من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أريد حفظه فنهتني قريش وقالوا أتكتب كل شيء تسمعه ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بشر يتكلم في الغضب والرضا فامسكت عن الكتاب فذكرت ذلك إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأومأ بإصبعه إلى فيه فقال اكتب فوالذي نفسي بيده ما يخرج منه إلا حق. حدثنا نصر بن علي قال أنبأنا أبو أحمد قال أخبرنا كثير بن زيد المطلب بن عبد الله بن حنطب قال دخل زيد بن ثابت على معاوية فسأله عن حديث فأمر إنسان فيكتبه فقال زيد إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمرنا أن لا نكتب شيء من حديثه فمحاه. حدثنا أحمد بن يونس قال حدثنا أبو شهاب عن الحذاء عن أبي المتوكل الناجي عن أبي سعيد الخدري قال ما كنا نكتب غير التشهد والقرآن. حدثنا مؤمل قال أخبرنا الوليد حدثنا العباس بن الوليد بن مزيد قال أخبرني أبي عن الأوزاعي يحيى بن أبي كثير قال أخبرنا أبو سلمة يعني بن عبد الرحمن قال حدثني أبو هريرة قال لما فتحت مكة قام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر خطبة النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال فقام رجل من أهل اليمن يقال له أبو شاه فقال يا رسول الله اكتبوا لي فقال اكتبوا لي أبي شاه. Chapter number 3, Imam Abu Dawud, he says writing down knowledge, recording knowledge. In other words, this chapter, it means the permissibility or the impermissibility of what? Writing down knowledge. About this in general, specifically hadith. Is it permissible to write down hadiths? Or you must only memorize those hadiths? Is what the Orientalists say, that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was not recorded, was not conserved until 250 years after his death. Is that valid? Is that accurate scientifically? Or is that an atrocious mistake, a horrible, erroneous fallacy? Which one? This is what he wants to discuss in this chapter. Is it permissible to write down knowledge? Is it recommended to write down knowledge? If you can write down knowledge, what type of knowledge can you write down? Only from the Quran? Only hadiths? Everybody understand this? He gives you the first narration of hadith number 3646. Narrated Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. He said, I used to write down everything I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying. Everything. So Quraysh, yani the mushrikeen, the kuffar from Quraysh, they said, don't do that. Stop. And they said to him, you write down from this man Muhammad, he's a human being. He speaks when he's angry, and he speaks when he's happy. So as if Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, he has some doubt. As if he has some doubt. So he went to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, complaining about what they said. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he said, Uktub. He said, write. I swear by Allah, the one whose hand my soul is in, nothing leaves my mouth except for the truth. He says, Wallahi, everything I say is haqq, so write it down. Everybody clear on this? Going back once again. A companion, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, he wrote down everything the Messenger ﷺ said, everything. The kuffar of Quraysh, they tried to cast some doubt into his heart. Why do you write down what this man says? He's just a man. He's not an angel. He speaks when he's angry. He speaks when he's happy. Don't write it down. So Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, as if he has some type of doubt. They shook him up just a little bit. He went to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, write. Don't listen to the kuffar. Don't listen to the mushrikeen. Don't listen to the people of ignorance. Don't listen to Ahlul Jahl. Don't lend your ear to their doubts. Write it down. Because everything that I say is the haqq. Everybody clear on this? What this hadith means? What is the main lesson from this hadith? Briefly, quickly. What's the main point from this hadith?
It's your right to document.
The permissibility of writing down ilm, ascent. That is the main lesson. That's the shahid min al-hadith. That's the highlighting point from hadith. What does writing down knowledge have to do with the chapter of knowledge?
Preserving.
What is that? What is the munasiba yani between kitabat al-ilm wa kitab al-ilm? فيه أدب. تفضل سامر.
العلم صيد والقلم قيد.
طيب بس المناسبة، قال أبو داود رحمه الله كتاب العلم، ثم قال باب كتابة العلم. كيف يتعلق كتابة العلم بالعلم؟ يعني in this chapter, as we said before, is a ruling and an etiquette of seeking knowledge. The first is the ruling, which is the permissibility of writing that knowledge, and secondly is the recommendation of talib al-ilm should what? As he said, يقيد الفوائد. He should write down the benefits. خيرا inshallah. So, first and foremost, before we move any further, we say that most of the academic or scholastic study of Islam in general, and Sunnah studies specifically, is based off of the works of the early European Orientalists, whether it's Gozair or Shkhat, and those who came after them. Men who came from Europe, they weren't Muslims, some of them were Jews, others were Christians. They went to Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Arabia, Yemen, Syria, North Africa, and they lived with the Muslims. They learned the Arabic language, some of them. They studied things from among the Muslims. And they were very intrigued with Islam and the lifestyle of the Muslims, specifically the hadith culture. They went back to Europe, they wrote books, and they came up with conclusions. From the conclusions is that all of the hadith of the Messenger of Allah are false and fabricated. From those conclusions, the only reason why there is a such thing called hadith and sunnah is because of political strife and because of the different madhahib in the aqa'id. In other words, the Hanafis made up hadiths to support their madhab against the Shafi'is and the Malikis. In other words, the followers of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, they made up hadith to go against the followers of Aisha. Or the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is one of the reservations that they made. Another conclusion that they made is that the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ were not recorded for at least 200 years. There was no such thing as a hadith being written down. These are some of the conclusions that they made. Take the faida. There is not an academic university or institute except that one way or another, when we talk about Western and non-Muslim institutes, that they were influenced by these early ideas. These are the two grandfathers of Orientalism, especially Gozair. This man, this is the conclusion that he came up with. We clearly see that this hadith falsifies that claim. It falsifies that claim. The Prophet ﷺ, he told the companion to do what? To write. Was every hadith written down? It's not important. We have scientifically proven that there were hadiths that were what? Written down. That's firstly. The second refutation is what? Just because something is written down, it means that it's authentic and genuine. And just because a person memorized something by heart and it's not written down, it means that it's false and fabricated. Intellectually, let's leave off the topic of religion. Intellectually, is that accepted? What would you say about someone who says that? Anything that's in the book is true. Anything you memorize by heart is what? Is false and inaccurate. Does that make sense intellectually? Yes or no, Ikhwan? Doesn't make sense. So this goes, when we talk about the Orientalists, unfortunately we talk about people who came from the East and went to the West. People who speak about Islam, defend Islam, they claim to be thinkers. They claim to be educated, academic people, but they are the furthest from basic common sense. Your entire argument is batil. Just because a hadith wasn't written down, it's inaccurate. Just because your history and your law was written down, it's true and it's accurate. That doesn't even make sense. That's unacceptable. Aqlan. Everybody understand this? So this is a very, very long topic. And the reason why we're speaking on it is because it's widespread. Anyone who goes to college and he studies Islam, comparative religion, he's going to come across this. He's going to hear these doubts. Hadiths weren't used by the early Muslims. Hadiths were only made because of the Shia and the Sunnah. Hadiths were only made for the four madhabs. Hadiths were only made for the Khawarij and the Sunnah, political things. You're going to hear all of these things. And they are all false. This hadith clearly proves, along with the other narrations that Abu Dawud quoted, that hadith were recorded during the lifetime of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, let alone during the time of his companions and the time of the Tabi'een. So back to this story. The first benefit we're taking this hadith, first and foremost, is the virtue of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhuma. He was a virtuous companion, and he was one who remained in the company of the Rasul ﷺ, and that we take from this, a student of knowledge should take as much from his teacher as he possibly can. Another benefit we take from this hadith is that the people of kufr and shirk, the people of falsehood, they will try their hardest. They will do whatever they can to distract you and to turn you away from following the truth. Whether it's a doubt, whether it's killing you, beating you, putting you in jail, accusing you of something, they won't fall short and trying to get you to stay away from your religion. Whatever they can. Sometimes the kuffar, they fight the Muslims physically with steel. Sometimes the kuffar, they fight the Muslims with ideology, putting poison, waliyadu billah, into the cups of the Muslims. So the student of knowledge has to beware of these things, is that there is batil. And there are people of batil, and they will spend wealth, time, and energy to spread and propagate that batil. From the time of the Rasul to this 21st century. Everybody clear on this? The next benefit from this hadith is that a student of knowledge should not lend his ear to the people of batil. You should not listen to their shubuhat. You should not listen to their arguments and to their debates. And when you read the classical Islamic history, you find a great difference between how the early ulama lived and practiced and how those who came later on lived and practiced. There's a difference. In the early days, there was no such thing as kalam. And this innovation and that innovation and this doubt and this logical, reasonable, rational point. This was the haqq. This was the system. Everything else is batil. Accept it who accepts it, rejects it who rejects it. As the time went on, the people of innovations, people of this rhetoric, of this batil philosophy, they got power, they got position, they got status. They wrote books, and as if they monopolized many of the Islamic sciences. And some of the people of knowledge, some of the people of the Sunnah, they began to listen. And that's why you find ulama who wrote books in the 8th century, 9th century, you find a long discussion of the issue. And that's not how the ulama of the 3rd century spoke. They didn't even deal with that crap. And they didn't even refute it because it was a waste of time. So a person who wants to follow the true way, he shouldn't even listen to what the people of falsehood say. Everybody understand this? The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't even specify what they said. He said, uktub. That's it. Just write it down. Do I speak when I'm angry? Do I speak when I'm pleased? Do I make mistakes as a human being? He didn't even get into that. But he told him to do what? Uktub. And then he gave his reasoning. He gave his dalil. He said, because ... So another benefit we take from this hadith is this. This is one of these styles of a fatwa. Is that you give the ruling and then give the dalil. And some of the ulama, they said you give the dalil first, then the ruling. And some of the ulama say you give the dalil without mentioning the ruling. And there's even a time which a person can give a ruling without mentioning the dalil. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told him, he commanded him, and then he supported him. He gave him knowledge. Write it down. Don't listen to what these ignorant pagan idol worshippers say. Because everything I say is the what? Is the haqq, is the haqq. Khairan, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, we benefit from this, the permissibility of writing down knowledge. Secondly, we benefit from this, is that the people of falsehood, everything they say, it doesn't mean that it's 100% baseless. It doesn't mean that they don't have shubuhat. Because look at what they said. He says he talks when he's angry, and he talks when he's what? Pleased. Makes sense. He's a human being. You can't write down everything that he says. So talib al-ilm has to be aware of these things. Khayr, so let's move on to the next hadith. Hadith number 3647. It's narrated that Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu entered upon Muawiyah, and he asked him for something. He asked him about a hadith. He then ordered one of his scribes to write down, to record something. He then said, Zayd ibn Thabit, that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam commanded us to refrain from writing any hadiths. He told us what? Not to write down anything. He then erased what he had written down. Everybody stay with me. Moving on to the next hadith. Hadith number 3648. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, the only thing that we wrote down was the tashahhud and the Quran. Hadith number 3649. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. On the conquest of Mecca, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he gave the people a sermon. And a Yemeni man named Abu Shah stood up. And he said, "O Messenger of Allah, write something down for me. Write down your khutbah." The Prophet ﷺ, he told the companions to write down what I said for this man. Here we have 3 hadiths. The first 2 hadiths clearly state the impermissibility of what? Writing down. The third hadith clearly states the permissibility of what? Writing down. Everyone know this? The first hadith of the chapter states the permissibility of what? Writing down. So we have how many hadiths Abu Dawud mentioned in this chapter so far? 4. 2 for the permissibility of writing, and 2 what? Against the permissibility. The summary of the issue is this. There are many hadiths that speak about the impermissibility of writing down hadiths. The impermissibility of writing down anything besides the Quran. Everybody clear on this? There are many narrations. We say in summary, all of these narrations are inauthentic except for one hadith in Sahih Muslim, in which Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Do not write anything down. Anyone who writes something down for me, let him erase it." Let him what? Let him erase it. So we have a conflict. One hadith says don't write anything down, and another hadith says what? Write things down. Everybody agree on this? There's a ta'aruf. There's a conflict. As we mentioned last night about the hadith about a man or a woman who buries his or her child in the sand and in the desert. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. The first system is to do what? Whenever we have 2 conflicting hadiths, what's the first system? What's the first step of the system? La laysa al-jam'. Nah, that's not the first step. That step number it comes later on. Ahsant. The first step is to see if both of the hadiths are what? Authentic. If they are both what? Authentic. That's step number 1. Step number 2. If they're both authentic, then we go to al-jam'u in amkan. Al-jam'u is in amkan. Biwajhin salim. If it's possible to harmonize between the 2 conflicting hadiths, this means that, and that means this. This was for a time, this was for a person, this is dislike, etc. Step number 3. If it's impossible to harmonize between them, then we must take one of the 2, which is stronger. And if that's impossible, if that's very difficult, then we move on to what? لا ليس توقف. أنت سريع ما في شيء. You're too fast for us. So a few steps before a tawaqquf, we say what? Al-nasakh. One is abrogated, one is muhkam. And the final step is what? Al-tawaqquf. نقول الله أعلم. طيب. So let's go back to the first step. We clearly have authentic hadiths that state the Prophet ﷺ told the man to write. The Prophet ﷺ, he told this man from Yemen to do what? He told the companions to do what? Uktubu. Yani, the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, he gave this khutbah. And he spoke to the people of Mecca. He told them certain things. He gave them instructions. The man came from Yemen, and as if he didn't get everything the Prophet ﷺ said. As if he wanted to go back to Yemen with those instructions. So he says, "O Messenger of Allah, write it down for me." Obviously the Prophet ﷺ didn't write. He told his companions to do what? To write it down. This is Bukhari and Muslim, this hadith. So it clearly proves, first and foremost, that some of the ulama, they took the view that the hadith pertaining to writing down hadiths being haram are all false and rejected. All of them. That's the first view. The second view, or the second step, is that there's one hadith which is authentic in Sahih Muslim, prohibiting writing down, and there are many other hadiths that allow the writing down of hadiths, that allow the recording of traditions. So some of them say the following things. Number 1, the prohibition of writing down hadiths was in the early days of Islam. The early days, when many of the companions had not made a clear distinction between the Quran and between what he ﷺ said and taught. Is that it was khashiyah, it was a fear, for there to be a mixture between the Quran and other than the Quran. The second step is the Prophet ﷺ, he said these hadiths to men who had very strong memories, very powerful minds, and he did not wish to weaken them. In other words, the more you write down, the less you what? Memorize. Everyone has a cell phone, right? How many numbers you memorize by heart? Maybe one or two. Your wife. Maybe one or two. But most of your numbers are what? In the phone. Is this not the case? Before people had smartphones, not cell phones, but smartphones, there was what? Sharper memory. Before people had cell phones, there was what? There was what? Without a doubt. Everybody a pay phone? Remember those days? You go to a phone booth, maybe somebody shabab be like, what? It may be far-fetched nowadays. Yes, there was a time in which there was no iPhone. There was a time in which there was no Android. There was no Galaxy. There was that pay phone. You had to have a quarter, put it in, call, spin the number, It's a reality. In other words, the more you memorize, the less you write, the less you record, the what? Without a doubt. Just like archery. Just like archery. Someone has a bow, without a scope on it. He has more skill than the person who needs the crosshairs, who has a trigger, a release. It weakens. Technology is a blessing and a curse at the same time. So some of the ulama, they say that the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade some companions from writing down things for what? To weaken the memory. Everybody understand this? In summary and in brief, it is permissible to write down knowledge, and there lies no doubt anyone with 2 eyes and 2 ears, Muslim or not, 2 eyes and 2 ears, and he is impartial, he will reach full certainty that there were hadiths recorded in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were hadiths that were written down on paper, on papyrus, on parchment, on animal skin or whatever during the time of the Kibar Sahaba. There were hadiths that were written down during the time of the Tabi'een. Now, all of the hadiths being written down, recorded, processed, compiled, organized. That happened what? A little later on. But there was recording of hadith. Everybody understand this? And we spoke on this in detail at our lecture on the compilation of the Sunnah. We spoke on this on detail. So therefore, these are the main benefits that we get from this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he clearly instructed him to write down hadiths. Now, pay close attention. Pay close attention. Hadith number 3647. Hadith number 3647 is weak. It's not as weak. However, pay close attention to the hadith. It says that Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, or that, excuse me, Zayd ibn Thabit, he entered upon Muawiyah. He then asked him about a hadith. So what did he do? It says here, فَأَمْرَ إِنسَانًا يَكْتُبُهُ. So, Muawiyah, he commanded someone to do what? Write down. Zayd radiallahu anhu, he said what? The Prophet told us not to write down anything. Listen carefully. Pay close attention to this narration. He told him not to write anything down, but Muawiyah radiallahu anhu gave the instructions to the scribe to do what? To write down. This proves that the hadiths were known, memorized, some of them were recorded or not. Which of the two? Muawiyah radiallahu anhu told him to write it down and give it to him. Then Zayd radiallahu anhu told him, say what? No, we were commanded not to write anything down. In other words, a person may use this hadith to prove his argument that you can't write down the hadiths. But we say in the actuality, the hadith is a what? Is against him. Is what? It's against him. Khairan inshallah. We're going to stop here with the next subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tonight, how many hadith did we cover? Well, about 5 hadith. Khairan inshallah. And there's another answer as well, another response with regards to some of the ulama. They say that the prohibition of writing down hadiths was abrogated. It was cancelled. Khairan inshallah. Hopefully everything we said is clear. If you don't understand, or if it's too much or too fast, please go back to the recording. Please go back to the other classes and lectures that we did on these topics. Time is limited. Time is tight. I have tulab that are advanced. We have tulab that have barely studied anything from these issues. We try to do the best that we can. And when you go to a circle of knowledge, a lecture, it is not a condition that you'll understand everything. It is not mandatory that you'll understand everything that's said. It's not true. If you get 60%, that's good. If you get 70%, that's good. If you left the majlis with one benefit, that's also good. And perhaps that which you don't understand, or that which is too fast or beyond your reach, will lead you to do what? Ask and learn more and increase your appetite for learning about this noble science. Everybody understand this? That's incorrect, that understanding. I can't benefit from this class because it's too fast, it's too much. No. Perhaps one piece of information will lead you to seek more. Khairan, inshallah. So we will stop here. Perhaps there may be some questions, I don't know, from the brothers or the sisters, or maybe some fawaid that the brothers would like to share with us. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Any questions? If not, we will stop our majlis. Thank you very much. Any questions on or off the topic? Please, ikhwan, if there are any questions from the brothers or the sisters, now is the time. Not after the class. Now is the time. Wallahu alam. Tfaddal. Wa yakum.
Just like a piece of advice, if you can give it to us, because you're saying that, like, in general, you were talking about like how the talib al-ilm gets the hadith. But as you see, like here, most of us were awam. We don't know much about the hadith and sanad. And as you know, like in general, du'at, like most of them are du'at al-fitna, and they're giving wrong information to the youth nowadays, and most of the youth are misguided and they're falling like ISIS, and like because of their poor knowledge. Like how would we know that the sheikh has opened the haqq or is talking the truth, the haqq all the time, because we don't have much knowledge, right?
طيب. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ومن يستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Question says, with regards to the laymen Muslims or the awam, people who don't have a great deal of knowledge or who haven't studied for a great amount of time, they don't have that much ilm of hadith or ilm of other things, and we have du'at, callers of fitna, du'at who make fitna, who produce fitna. How do we know that this person is on the truth and that person isn't upon the truth? Those who call us to this group or this organization, etc. What is your advice with regards to this issue? We say it's a very important question, and it's an entire lecture in itself. And we've spoken on this many times in many places. I would say in brief, the first step is to seek guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to show you the truth and allow you to see it as the truth and allow you to follow it. We know that Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam would say at the night time, after prayer, before sleep, he would invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and mention the name of the different angels and the other sifat of Allah, the mighty and majestic. He would say, "Oh Allah, guide me to the truth in which the people differ. Guide me لِمَا اخْتُلِفَ فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ." Guide me to the truth over which people differ. In other words, many people today, whenever they want to ask about these things, a specific sheikh, a specific group, a specific book, this and that, but we often forget that guidance is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first step is begging Allah to guide you, begging Allah to keep you safe from fitna, begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to steer you away from the extremists on the right and the extremists on the left. That's the first step. Secondly, we say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given different slaves different amounts of knowledge. Some people have ilm, others don't have ilm. Some people have a great deal of ilm, some just have a little bit. Some specialize, some don't. And the list goes on. But Allah has given every single human being a very strong, powerful weapon. And that strong, powerful weapon is good, solid common sense. Good, solid common sense. Every human being has it or is born with it. Some choose to use it, others don't. Some people have distorted their common sense and burnt it out, and others still have it. Everybody clear on this? Common basic aql. It is impossible for what this person saying or calling me to, no matter what title he gives, no matter what sheikh supports it, it's impossible for that to be the deen of Islam. I used to be a Christian, I used to be a Jew, I used to be a Hindu. I did not accept Islam for what this guy is saying. Impossible. That's not Islam. I didn't used to pray. I used to do this, I used to drink, I didn't make salah, I was born Muslim. And then I came and I learned about the sunnah, I started praying, I started dressing like a Muslim. It is impossible for me to have left that jahiliyyah, quote unquote, left that ignorance, left that disobedience to what this person is saying. No way. I didn't fight those demons and those devils in myself to come to this chaotic understanding of Islam. Impossible. I may not understand all of the details. He may have a hadith that he's quoting, a sheikh and this one, but that can't be Islam. In other words, I can go back to drinking and smoking and fornicating. Then this doesn't make any sense. Everybody clear with this? Common aql. Whether it's pertaining to killing people, killing yourself, or one day a person is on the sunnah, the next day he's on innovation. A third day a person is about to the knowledge, the next day he has no knowledge whatsoever. That's not the way of the Salaf Salih. Mustahil. It's impossible for Islam, for the sunnah, for the way to be a roller coaster. And it literally is a roller coaster. If you just sit down and think about it, over the last 10 years, over the last 15 years, I'm sure you have many people visit this center right here in Toronto. How many of them now, one day on it, next day off of it? One day is allama, muhaddith, faqih, mujahid. The next day is jahid. He doesn't understand anything. Don't take nothing from him. That's a roller coaster for the people. He comes to benefit the people. They learn from him. Next day, burn all of his books. Get rid of all of his information. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a student of knowledge. But I know that that is what? Intellectually what? Impossible. That's impossible. Muhammad's deen was clear, was simple, was basic. So therefore, is a qaida, very important qaida that some of the ulama mentioned, is that you must stick to what is to be the truth and reject that which goes against the truth, even if you don't know the details of it. I know for sure Islam is simple and basic. I know for sure that the sunnah has a sweet, pleasing taste. That's not the sunnah because it doesn't taste sweet. It's bitter. It causes hatred. It causes separation. It causes division. What these people are doing in this country, that country, is humiliating Muslims. It's destroying Islam. It's giving a bad name for Islam and a bad name for the Sunnah. It's impossible for that to be jihad. It's impossible for that to be the way of the Salaf. I don't know all of the details, but I know that that doesn't make any sense. And Allah Azza wa Jalla has given me what? Common sense. Everybody understand this? Then there's a third step. There's a third step. On top of the common sense that you have and Allah has given you, seek more knowledge and go with your heart. Go with what you feel. He has knowledge. He looks like a good brother, but I don't feel comfortable. It's something I see in his akhlaq, in his statements. I don't feel right. And there lies no doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the human being this instinct of khair and shar. He has given the human being the instinct of light and darkness. There's no doubt about this. And the companions, how were they when they were with the Messenger of Allah? What did they say when they saw him? When they heard him speak? When they ate with him? The mushrikeen who knew he was the Rasul. When they got to Medina, they saw him. What did Salman Farisi say? He says, I knew his face wasn't the face of a liar. I knew he wasn't a liar just by his face. So we say that the more knowledge that you have,